Hello, my sweet friends. I hope you're well. Welcome to day 10 of our 12 Days of Christmas in July series. We are in the home stretch, y'all, but if you're just getting started, check at the top of the description for links for the first 9 days. That way you can get caught up, and don't forget to listen throughout the video for the question of the day. We are going to be making this beautiful vintage-inspired Santa folio today, and we're going to be using paper from Mintay, some envelopes, and a surprise sneaky recycling item that you'll have to check out when we get into the video. But you see, we have plenty of room for those beautiful, lovely, large images that Mintay always has. These pockets will hold cut-apart images as inserts, along with space for more flat keepsakes and mementos. And you can see how I have gone and mixed and matched those patterns. So it is super bright and very cheerful. And let me tell you, this little book is so sturdy. I can knock on that and you can tell a lot of layering and structure to this. So it is going to be perfect. If that sounds good to you, then stick around and we will make it together. So we've got this Merry Enjoy collection from Mintay paper. It is absolutely so beautiful that I had a hard time cutting into it. Once I did though and started getting those layering in place, I felt a lot better about it. But this is beautiful paper, beautiful quality, and a shabby chic kind of vibe, or vintagey in this case. So I think it's going to work really well for my project today. I'm going to create the base of this folio with these sage colored envelopes, and these are standard size, and so this would be 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. And then we're also going to use these as our pockets, and so some of them will remain whole, and then some of them we're going to cut down to create the pockets and add to the front. We do have one little sneaky surprise, and we're going to cut up a little bit of this recycling to include in those envelopes to make it a little bit more sturdy. I did find this one. Look, it says Joann's. That makes me sad that it's not there anymore, but I did cut them down to be 5 1/8 by 7 1/8. I'll just put 2 of these together and tuck that inside, and now this is much more sturdy. You will also want to close that up. This envelope just has a sticky section here, so we can close that right up. Now I will have 4 of these created exactly the same, and that will be the base. We also need to have a couple extra to cut into pockets, and you would cut these so that we can adhere them right down to the bottom. When you get the top portion here, I would just go ahead and pull that adhesive backing off and then add it that way. So we'll have 4 envelopes for the full-size pages, and then there are 3 pockets, so you'll still need 2 envelopes, and then cut the strip off of that. So it's pretty good use of those pre-made envelopes, and definitely a good use of your recycling. We do need to connect those. I did consider a spiral binding, but it's sometimes difficult to find the right spiral color for your project, and I did have a darker color, a metallic color, and a black, and I didn't really think that it went with the kind of vintagey, shabby vibe. And I also considered rings, but those can get a little clunky, and so I decided just to go ahead and create this additional layering that we can connect and then add our envelopes to it. So these are going to be 5 1/4 by 2 1/4. It's scored at 1 and 1 1/4. So you're going to have a good generous amount to attach to the envelopes, and then 1/4 of an inch in that spine to accommodate the bulk of all those layers that we want to add. And I did pre-tape these, but I numbered them because sometimes I get a little bit lost in the layering, and I don't want to do that this time. So I have added this tape to 2 of them, and I will be utilizing my 2 glues for this as well. This one is number 2, so I'm going to set this down on my work surface so that I can press it down all the way so that that score line winds up flat against my work surface. You see, and then my spine will be nice and even going across. I'll pull the backing from this tape as well. And add my 2 glues. This is a number 3, and I haven't added tape to it yet because I do sometimes get ahead of myself and put it in the wrong spot. So let's go ahead and repeat that process to get these lined up. Press it into place well so that you have a good contact. Now we're going to have this be 3 wide, so basically 3/4 of an inch. Now we want to attach our envelopes to it, and it doesn't matter which way you go because we're going to cover them with our pattern paper. So let's just add this here, and I'll do the same 2 glue combo for each of these layers. Going to start from the back and build as we go forward. These flaps are going to be concealed between the layers, so we'll have them hidden. I do want to bring this corner to the score line, and I folded it up here just so that I know exactly where and how far over to go. And then press that down, and you see that folds over perfectly. So you would continue to do that for each of these sections. When you get to the top one, you're just going to adhere that envelope to this side, bringing those corners together. So now you can see we have our base created, and this is going to give us these sections on the inside. So what I want to do is come back in with my cut envelopes and add these to the right hand side. These are going to become our pockets, and I have just sealed that envelope and cut from either end so that I have the sealed side on the bottom. This is going to be 2.5 high, and it will measure the exact width of the envelope beneath it. 2 glues for this step as well. Difficult to see because it's the same color, but we are adding a very handy little pocket. We can include some of the image cut aparts or additional flat keepsakes and mementos. Really fill this up. Our last pocket. And of course the cover is not going to have a pocket, but we will work on that later once we get the inside finished. So now you want to cover this with your pattern paper. And I have this beautiful, stunning Christmas paper cut to be 5 1/8 by 7 1/8, and that way you're going to get a nice border of that beautiful sage envelope around, and might as well do 2 glues for all of this as well. And you see how we have sandwiched that flap between the layers. So it is not only extra secure, but it is hidden. And so now we want to add pattern to the back of this page, and it will go into the pocket. And so I have cut that the same size, but I have added my adhesive only to the top. So that will make it easier to get that tucked into that pocket. I have just chosen this paper and cut it so that most of the scene will be visible. Kind of difficult sometimes to work with these super large patterns, but if you are careful, you can get some good pattern showing and not lose what it's about. So I'm just going to pull this up. You can see over top. So you can see we're still going to have that nice border, and when we put our inserts into the pocket, it's not going to get stuck on anything. It will be a smooth, solid base. Now we want to cover the pockets, and I have this paper cut to be 2 3/8 by 7 1/8. Just plonk that down on here, and this is going to not only cover that pocket but give it a little bit of extra sturdiness as well. So I think this turned out beautifully, and you could actually include your picture here so that you don't miss too much of that pretty Christmas scene. So we're going to cover the remainder of the sets of pages with the same measurements and the same technique. This might be a good time for the question of the day. So let me know in the comments, what is your favorite Christmas beverage? Now, I think it would be hard to decide what is my favorite. So I think you can have up to 3 answers. That way you can say you like peppermint mocha or a spice cider or some kind of festive beverage. Just let me know in the comments what is your favorite. For me, I think I'm going to stick with peppermint mocha. I have had a very festive cocktail at Buffalo Wild Wings last year, and I ordered it off a menu that did not have prices included, which probably was my first mistake, and boy was it good. But when we got the bill, I realized that a very small martini sized glass of this festive concoction was $15. So probably won't order that again, just because I'm a frugal girl, y'all, and I just cannot. But I do think now that I have a frother at home and I can make my own peppermint mochas without going to the coffee shop, that is probably my favorite. Just wanted to mention, when I get to this piece, it will not fill the full length of this, just because I didn't want to cut into an additional sheet of this pattern to get this covered. So I will repeat the process of adding my adhesive to the top only, and I'll just be aware of how far down that goes into the pocket to make sure that it looks like a whole sheet and no one will know that you've got it just a partial page. I just have to pull that closer to me, y'all, because I am a short girl and I cannot see over the top when I'm working along, and I did want to get that on straight. So I'm going to continue to cover the front pocket here. And then while we're at it, might as well just cover the back. So for the front and back, I am piecing together some of these patterns just so that it will stretch the amount of space that I want to cover without being wasteful and cutting into new sheets of paper. So I think this is just nice layering, but also being frugal with your paper. Maybe I want to set this flat. It's hard to see over the top. And get that lined up. 2 glues for this one as well. I just put that on a little scrap of that pretty sage colored paper. So actually that gives me another layer of thickness for the cover too. So this is, it's pretty solid. All right, now we want to wrap this, of course, with some trim, beautiful plaid ribbon from Really Reasonable Ribbon. While we're doing this, let's talk about how many sections I added. So I have stopped at 3, and I think you should too. If you get any more, I think the spine wants to kind of bend over a little bit and not be a solid background. So I'd say stick with 3. 3 is good. Getting this ribbon stuck down, and I will tell you that I think one of my lights has a bug on it, and it does not smell good. It smells like burnt bug here at Christmas Central. But so now I have that ribbon in place, but before we put any of the dimensional layers on the front, let's just go through and pick a couple of those image cut aparts. We have 3 pockets, so we can probably pick 2 of these for each of them. And I just want to go through and find ones that are super beautiful. Look how well that slid in there. And so there is room in here for other additional keepsakes. And you could even probably do some journaling on the front of this pocket as well. So that will be extra handy. I think this one will show up better there. Isn't this sweet? That little truck and the nutcracker. Okay, so we've got some inserts here. Pictures and journaling can go on those as well. Let's put our cover on, and I split that pattern again on the front and added it to an additional piece of that sage colored cardstock. And this will capture that ribbon trim in between the layers. Get that down nice and flat and even. And then we'll just tie this up now. And put on my favorite finishing details like a beautiful doily. Just kind of setting this a little bit right of center so that I have room for my flower arrangement. And I have cut one of those images from the cut apart sheet with a stitched edge die that's a rectangle, but it has rounded corners, so that gives it a little bit of extra detail and makes it fit a little bit better onto the surface. And I did cut a piece of sturdy cardstock and added a layer to that so that it will be nice and sturdy. There's foam tabs here, and then I've put an eyelet with some really chunky red and white baker's twine. And this piece was one that I got advice from the tech hubby. I gave him a couple options, and this is the one that he thought worked best, and I agree. So it's always good to get a second opinion. Beautiful vintagey Santa. We've got some flowers. Now, I would usually have an ivory burlap string for my twine bows, but I think this chunky, beautiful red and white baker's twine will be perfect for a more whimsical kind of cover. Just a couple of poinsettias there and some die cut foliage and netting. I'm just going to put part of it up on that image and part of it down onto the base. Got pretty ice skate charms here, and I'm going to add them so that they will be right in the corner of that beautiful image. Clipped the excess. Top it with a button. Put my sequins on. I did consider adding some pom-pom trim to this just to make it a little bit extra festive, but it just really was too much. It detracted from the cover. And so that's really a lesson in just because you have it doesn't mean you have to use it. I think it would have taken away from the overall impression that I want this cover to have, which is just beautiful and vintagey and festive and bright and cheerful. So I did not opt for that pom-pom trim, but I did get it from Dollar Tree. So if y'all are looking for some beautiful trims to add, maybe you have a documenting December or December daily and you want to add some textural things to it, you might want to check there. So that's going to be it for today, and I sure do hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to come back tomorrow for day 11. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Check in the description for links. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye!